IAS Academy.
Hello all, welcome to IAS Academy and welcome back to the program Editorial Daily, where we discuss the daily editorial analysis which enriches your perspectives and enhances your answer writing for your mains examination. So let's get started with our today's session. In our today's session, the first article for today is reconnect public health with people's needs. Reconnect the public health with the people needs is the first article for today. Basically, the public health policy is shifting away from improving the population health outcome towards promoting individual well-being and wellness. This is the main concern because this shift often ignores the structural barriers which as such as the poor health infrastructures, the high private healthcare costs, lack of quality public healthcare facilities, and also these are the main concerns of the public health policy problem. Okay, so the current what you say this article mainly criticizes two major initiatives. What are those two major initiatives? Is the Ayushman Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Center. This is the first thing the mainly the article criticizes about the Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centers. And second is Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission. Ayushman Bharat, Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission. Okay, so these are the two major initiatives which are being criticized in this article. Okay, and this article was given by the Matthew George, and the main theme of this article is the public health policy, universal health coverage, Ayushman Bharat, and digital health mission. Okay, now let's look into this article completely. What is the context of it and to the which papers of your GS, I mean your mains can be linked to this article. We will see. Okay. Yes. So let's see the topic. The first topic is reconnect public health with people needs. And to the which syllabus we can connect this article is to the GS paper 2, which is the issues relating to the development and management of social sector or services which are relating to health, education, human resource, and the government policies and interventions for development in various sectors. This is the subject, the syllabus relevance for this article. And coming to the context of this topic, see, the editorial critiques the current direction of India's public health policies. India's public health policies, which argues that in recent initiatives such as the Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Center and Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Machine has shifted the attention towards the individual wellness and digital data collection. It's shifted its attention towards the individual wellness and digital data collection. So this shift neglects the structural reality. It neglects the structural reality of weak healthcare infrastructure and the unaffordable private care and poor quality in public health institutions. So this is the context of the topic. Okay, now when we see the introduction for this, how can we write the introduction if the mains question is about this article? Then we can write as the public health policy is crucial for India to realize its demographic dividend. So although recent years have seen claims of progress towards universal health coverage, public funded health insurance schemes often fail to guarantee basic health benefits. So, rising private healthcare costs and poor quality in public facilities have further weakened the access to care. So, therefore, public health policy must reconnect with the people's actual needs by strengthening the institutions and ensuring the access to the curative care. This is the introduction which we can write for the question. Okay. Next, when we see the problematic shift from health to wellness, the first thing we can say is ambiguity in mandate. Ambiguity in mandates, which that in 2018, the Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centers initiative, which is aimed to strengthen the grassroots infrastructure. However, the remaining subcenters like PHCs and CHCs, health and wellness centers, created the ambiguity among the health professionals regarding their actual mandate. Okay. So, what is our primary mandate, or primary mandate, health service or the wellness promotion? We have to question ourselves. Basically, see, this population health like drinking water, nutrition, disease control, what you called emergency care, institutional access, or the wellness like focus on individual lifestyle and choices. This is what we have to see. Okay. When we come to the individualization over population health, the traditional public health, which focuses on the population level, needs such as drinking water, nutrition, disease control, emergency care, and the institutional access. So, in contrast, the idea of wellness shifts the responsibility to individuals and their lifestyle choices. So, while underestimating the structural and social determinants of health. Okay, this is the individualization over population health, where we can question like what is our primary mandate, health services or the wellness promotion. This is what the question rises. Okay, now when you come up to the challenge, the well-being is individualistic and subjective. So making it different to measure at the population level, when health policy focuses on the subjective wellness, it risks the ignoring measures which gaps in the healthcare access, the disease burden, the nutrition and the infrastructure. This is the major challenges. Okay, so the core issue where it comes from is the shift from the health to wellness. The shift from health to wellness may weaken the state responsibility to provide institutional care and address the structural deficiencies. Okay, yes. Moving forward, see, the fallacy of digital health registers, like data does not equally distribute the healthcare delivery. In the sense, the Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission, which aims to create the digital health IDs, facility registers, and professional registers. However, the digital information, which alone cannot solve the physical barriers of inadequate hospitals, poor public facilities, and the unaffordable private care. Basically, when the data is high, but we do not have that what you call the physical barriers, we cannot come up this with physical barriers like the inadequate hospitals, the poor public facilities, and the unaffordable private cares. So what we do with this data if we have. Okay, so next is the operating in silos. Like the core barriers in Indian healthcare system are lack of affordable care and poor quality public institutions. Whenever, basically, when a person is earning or doing something, if you have money and all, you can earn it in your hands, you obviously prefer a private hospital rather than the government hospital. Why? Because the facilities which is provided in the private hospitals are much more better when compared to the facilities which are provided in the government hospitals. So everyone will be preferring the private hospitals rather than the public hospitals, because of this infrastructure issues and the cleanliness, the neatness which is being maintained and all. So even if every individual facility is digitally mapped through ABHA cards, ABHA cards, the healthcare delivery still requires this strong institutional mechanism. Okay, next, what is the limits of this digitalization? Basically, this digital platforms can support the service delivery, but they cannot replace the doctors, they cannot replace the medicines, hospitals, and emergency services and public health infrastructure. They only provide the services, rather than that, beyond nothing is provided. Okay, so data is important but not at all enough. Like if we have the digital registry, can't we can we replace this digital registry with the hospital or with the doctors or with the medicines or emergency services? No, right? So information cannot replace the infrastructure and the care delivery which a person has to get it. Okay, So, what is the need to prioritize the curative care and the institutions now is the immediate pressing need. The immediate pressing need is for the vast majority of Indians, access to the curative care remains the most urgent requirement. Okay, and coming to the correct sequencing of care, first is preventive and promotive health initiations becomes meaningful only when basic curative care is accessible and affordable. Okay, next is weakening the three-tier system. Weakening the three-tier system, like India's public healthcare system is structured through sub-centers, PHCs, CHCs, and higher level institutions. However, in current policies lack the like what you called the however this current policies lack the concrete measures to strengthen this three-tier structures, which allowing public institutions to weaken in many regions. Okay, what is the three-tier health system in India is the first is the sub-centers. The first is sub-centers with the first point of contact at the grassroots level. Next comes the PHCs, the primary health centers, which provide the basic outpatient and inpatient care. And next comes the CHCs, the community health center. Community health centers which provide the specialist care, and it serves as a referral for PHCs. And the last is the district or higher institutions where the advanced care and tertiary services are available. Okay, so these institutions are weakening, which is strengthening them must be the policy anchor. Okay, next, when you come up with the themes you can key terms you can take up from this article is the first one is universal health coverage. Universal health coverage, which what is this universal health coverage is, it is a policy goal which is seeking to ensure that every individual has access to necessary health services without suffering financial hardship. Okay, this is about the universal health concern. Okay, yes, universal health coverage. Next is the population health promotion. Population health promotion is a broad population based approach, that recognizes how underlying social and this economical and environmental conditions has shapes the people health outcomes and their ability to adopt the healthy behaviors. Okay, next is the individualization of health. This is one more term which we can take from this article, that is a policy shift that places the primary responsibility for health on personal choices and subjective well-being, so often underestimating the systemic barriers to good health. Okay, then the last one is the structural determinants of health. Structural determinants of health, in the sense the foundational social, economic, and infrastructure factors such as access to clean drinking water, what you call nutrition, and the institutional care, which are directly dedicate the public health outcomes. Okay, these are the few key terms which can take out from this article. Coming to the conclusion of this article, which how you can write is, when the public health policy failed to recognize the people felt needs, so prioritizing unmeasurable individual wellness and digital registers over tangible infrastructure, they risk becoming more vehicles for advancing policymakers and priorities, which access to the curative care and structurally stronger public institutions must anchor India's health policy if the nation is to effectively address systemic deficiencies in the service delivery. This is what the conclusion you can write. Okay. Next, the basic key takeaway which we can take from this article is public health cannot be rebuilt through slogans of wellness or the digital database alone. So it must be reconnected with people's real needs, affordable treatments, and strong public institutions and equitable access to the care. This is the major key takeaway we can take up. And yes, when you see the complete gist of this article, which we can say is, the article mainly argues that India's public health policy should reconnect with people real needs while while though wellness and digitalizations are valuable, they basically cannot replace the robust public healthcare institutions. So the priority must be strengthening the healthcare infrastructure, ensuring the affordable access to the care, and addressing the social determinants of health. Okay, so only then can universal health coverage become a reality. Okay, this is the complete gist of this article, what we can say. Okay. Yes. Moving on to the next article of today, it is India's next challenge from invention to the global scale. The author of this article is Kiran Mazumdar Shah, who is the executive chairperson of Biocon Limited. Okay. Now, when you look into the central theme of this article, it says that India has repeatedly demonstrated the technological foresight and innovation. Technological foresight and the innovation. Okay, so but it has often failed to convert the early technological advantages into globally dominant industries. From what you call, it always failed to transform the early technological advantages into the global, what you say, globally dominated industries. Okay, so the next phase of India's development, which requires moving from invention to scale, from innovation to commercialization, and from self reliance to the global leadership. Okay, what is it? So India is the next phase of India's development requires moving from invention, I can write it here, like invention to invention to scale up, like innovation to commercialization, like innovation to commercialization, innovation to commercialization, and from what you called self reliance to global leadership, self reliance to global leadership. Okay, this is what the India has to move from in the next phase. So India basically has a very strong history of scientific innovations and technology visions, like it anticipated several transformative technologies before they became the mainstream. And however, India has struggled to transform technological breakthroughs into global competitive enterprises. So the real measure of technological success is not the innovation alone. It's not the innovation alone, but the ability to scale up the innovations globally. Okay, so the main core argument come up as being first matters little if you cannot scale. I can write it here somewhere, just a second. Yes, being first, it matters little. Being first matters little if you cannot scale. If you, just a second, if you cannot scale. Okay, so this is the main core argument which we can take up. Okay, now let us see the complete detailed thing about this article, and we will see how can we write if it is asked in the examination, and how this is linked to your paper. Okay, let's see. So the editorial highlights India's historical paradox. It often showed early technological vision and the scientific ingenuity, yet failed to convert these inventions into globally dominant commercial industries. So, as India enters the emerging domains like AI, quantum computing, space technology, and semiconductors, the real challenge is not the invention alone, but building scalable ecosystems, commercializing the products, and competing the globally. This is has to be there. Basically, we are inventing the things, but we are not even competing globally. This is what the main context of this article is. Coming to the subject relevance, we can link this article to GS paper 3, which is the science and technology and the achievements of India in science and technology, indigenization of technologies, developing new technologies, awareness in IT, space, computers, robotics, AI, and quantum. And in GS paper 3, we can link to the economic development of India, where the industrial policy and changes in it, effects in industrial growth, investment models, and infrastructures also we can link this article to. Okay, let's move on. Moving on to the introduction of the topic, what we can write is India has repeatedly anticipated transformative technologies and built the impressive scientific capabilities. Yet, across many sectors, it struggled to convert early technological leadership into globally competitive enterprises. So, the next test of India's technological rise lies in the scaling innovation, moving from capability demonstration to commercial dominance. This is the introduction which we can give it to our question. Okay. Now, when we see the historical missed opportunities, which is investing but failing to scale up, is the first one is semiconductors SCL 1970s. Semiconductors SCL 1970s. India recognized the future of integrated circuits. Future of integrated circuits, which is early by establishing the Semiconductor Complex Limited. But unlike the Taiwan's TSMC or South Korea's Samsung, India failed to build a scale due to limited capital, inconsistent policy support, inadequate ecosystem depth, and an inward looking public sector approach. Okay, this is what the India has failed in that time. Coming to the electronics, that is ECIL 1967, the ECIL is developed indigenous computers and the strategic electronics during the technology embargoes, right? But remained focused on strategic and state requirements rather than creating globally competitive commercial products. Though we are doing things, but we are constrained to the particular thing, but we are not permitting it to be globally. When you see the CCIL, when it developed the indigenous computers and the strategic electronics during that technological embargoes times, but we have restricted ourselves, then we are focused to the strategic of state requirement rather than being it to be a global competitive field. So we are always tracking up back to our what you say, we are stacking up back to our state, we are stacking up to the nation requirements, we are not competing globally. This is what the historical missed opportunities we have done. The third one is the computer, like the simputer in 1998 which we have developed. The simputer anticipated features later seen in the smartphones. The features which we have invented in the simputer are later seen in the smartphones, but it failed to scale because the ecosystem, venture capital, the software platforms, the component supply chain, and consumer market readiness was not mature enough at that time. So we have kept it quiet. So though we have invented, though we have done things, but we are not even going globally. We are sticking up to our the state itself. Okay. Now, coming to the core insight of the article is India's recurring weakness was not the absence of innovation. We cannot accept that we are lack of innovation, but the inability to build capital rich, policy stable, and market linked ecosystems around our innovations. This is what the core insight of this article is coming up of. Okay. Now, when you say the body, like what you call, we have seen this semiconductors and all, right? Why it failed, by why this semiconductors which we have developed and we did not come up in the limelight, is why it has failed is due to the limited capital and investment, due to inadequate scale and technological depth, inconsistent policy and regulatory support, and the inward look bureaucracy driven public sector approach. These are the things which have held which is the things which came up of failing of this semiconductors which have to be introduced. Next is the electronics. Then the ECIL, when they developed the indigenous computers and the strategic electronics, what is the reason for the failure is the overemphasis on strategic, not the commercial applications, not the commercial applications, but the strategic applications. It is limited market orientation and lack of the global competitiveness. This has been failed. And next, the computer in 1998, why it has failed is due to the immature ecosystem of venture capital, weak supporting industries, and component supply chains, and the limited consumer market readiness. Okay, so moving on, when you see the models of success where India has scaled up is in the pharmaceuticals. Like, it successfully evolved from domestic manufacturing to becoming the pharmacy of the world. India has become the pharmacy of the world and the leading vaccine producers. Okay, in COVID, we have developed the Covaxin, right? Covaxin, Covishield, which we have developed. Okay. So, next in supercomputing, India has developed indigenous capabilities through the PARM program, which is earning the global recognition. This is one of the success. And the next one is digital public infrastructure, like platforms like Aadhaar and UPI, which has proved how technology is designed for massive scale can transform a nation. Okay, because this having the Aadhaar and UPI has created a very big change in our nation. So, scale creates the ecosystem creates the industries, and industries creates the global leadership. You can say scale is creating the ecosystems are creating the industries, and where the industries is creating the global leaderships. Okay, this is what we can say. This is what the growth we can see. Okay, the road ahead, like what you call the scaling future technologies, what we can see is the first one is the artificial intelligence. Success is basically not about building the largest models, but making the intelligence cheaper and more accessible. So, India should aim to democratize AI just as UPI democratized finance through low cost, energy efficient models capable of serving the billions. This is when we come up to the AI, the artificial intelligence. Coming to the quantum computing, instead of replacing the existing global approaches, India must focus on reducing the cost of quantum infrastructure. It has to reduce the cost of quantum infrastructure and developing practical applications in healthcare, drug discovery, material science, and climate modeling. Okay, when coming to the space technology, the India is moving beyond the fragile innovations of Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan. Yes, so India should lead the conservations developments in futuristic areas like orbital computing infrastructure, space-based AI platforms, and space-based data centers, which is powered by continuous solar energy. Okay, yes. Now, moving forward, what are the key imperatives which we can take up for this artificial intelligence is to develop the indigenous open and multilingual data sets, to invest in low cost energy efficient compute infrastructure, to promote open sources ecosystems and health foundation models, to use the to use the AI public good in health, agriculture, education, and governance. This is where the AI can be used. Okay, next, coming to the key imperatives of quantum computing is it can be we can build the affordable and scalable quantum hardwares to develop applications with such specific quantum solutions for real world problems, and to foster the economic industry collaboration and the global partnerships, and by creating the indigenous intellectual properties in quantum algorithms and the systems. This is what we can do. And coming to the space technology, also we can scale up, like to invest in the reusable launch systems and cost effective access to space. and develop the orbital computing infrastructure and data centers. And we can also do like build the space based AI platforms for earth observation and the disaster management, and to strengthen the public private partnership in the space ecosystem. These are the key imperatives we can take up in AI, the quantum computing and the space technology. When coming to the conclusion of this topic, we can say as, see, See, the deeper lessons from India's technological past is not that it's failed, but that is often stopped too soon. Like celebrating capability before building the ecosystem required for the global scale. So, the next phase of India's technological journey must combine the self-reliance with immunence globally. Okay, immense global ambition. So, the goal is no longer just to invest but to build, scale, and commercialize. Tomorrow, leaders will not necessarily be those who invest first, but those who scale the best. Okay, see. These are a few keywords which we can take from this article. Is the first one is the technological scaling, means the process of expanding an innovation from a prototype into a mass market global competitive product. Mass market globally competitive product. This is what you can write about the technological scaling. Next is ecosystem building. Ecosystem building is nothing but developing the necessary support structures like venture capital, supply chains, the software platforms to sustain an industry. Okay. Next is democratization of AI. Means making the AI affordable, ubiquitous, and accessible to the masses. Next is the orbital computing. Orbital computing is developing data centers and computing the infrastructure in space to leverage continuous solar energy and unique environmental conditions. Okay. Next is frugal innovation. Frugal innovations, which is achieving high quality results with limited resources. Example, the ISRO's early machines, which now needs to paired with global commercial ambition. These are the keywords which we can take up from this article. Okay. Yes, obviously not we shouldn't be like what you say, we India is challenging no longer inventing by new technologies. It is scaling them into global dominant enterprises is what India has to do now. So the country's future leadership in AI, the semiconductors, the quantum computing and the space technology, whatever, it will depend on its ability to create the strong innovation ecosystems. So it attracts the investment, it commercializes the research, and it competes globally. So the nation that led tomorrow may not be those that invest in first, but those that scale the best. This is what the article is talking about. Okay, so we can take up a few key quotes from this article. The first quote we can take up is, being first matters little if you cannot scale. Okay, and the second quote also you can take up as, scale creates the ecosystem, ecosystems creates the industries creates the global leaderships. These are the two quotes you can take up in this from this article. It is very helpful in your answer writing. Okay, so you can also come up in few words, like the conclusion you can write in this topic is, India has demonstrated technological integrity repeatedly. The next step is building the ecosystem but transform the innovation into global competitive industries which are capable of shaping the technologies of future. Okay. Yes, these are the articles for today. We have seen the two articles for today analysis video, and the first article which we have talked about the public health and the wellness oriented approaches which we have seen, and in the second article we have come through this global competitiveness with the supercomputers, quantum computing, and the AI, and what you called and rest of this which we innovations which have to be compete globally. Okay. Yes, I hope you all like this video. and you have taken the note. If you have want a clear note of it, if you want this PDF to be available, this is available in the website itself. The link is provided in the description below. You can download it from there. And do follow, like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel so that you'll get daily editorial analysis, which is very much helpful for your mains answer writing as well as for your interview preparation. Okay, and do follow our Instagram ID and well as our Telegram ID for your UPSC preparation. And I'll see you all soon in tomorrow's editorial analysis. Thank you.